Uh, I have always maintained, and I find there's a great deal of more learned support from theologians and historians, that modern science, the science that ties things back to reality, to physical facts and so on, arose out of Christianity. It didn't arise out of any of the other religions, I mean, Hinduism, Buddhism, Islam. Well, Islam contributed our symbols, the Arabic numeral, for instance, and made a contribution to mathematics. For mathematics, my old father, who was a mathematician, used to say it was the handmaid of the sciences, but it's the handmaid that's taken them over since then. And the realistic science in which you bend your mind to fit the facts arose from Christianity, and it's departed from it now, is departing very much, and that's where the conflict arises.
I've been very interested in your views expressed over many years on the importance of the Trinitarian concept. Does this development in your thinking and the stress come as a result of social credit? Has Douglas thrown any light on that for you?
Yes, indeed. Yes, that's derived directly from Douglas. Douglas was a man who didn't talk in a pious way, so to speak. If he, on the rare occasions, fairly regular but infrequent, when he used the language of the Bible, he nearly always threw a new light on it, or of the creeds. Most of us as Christians have been brought up to regard the doctrine of the Trinity as rather mystical. Nowadays, all the trendy clergy are rejecting it. I've heard it described as the theological algebra, and it's supposed to be rather meaningless and incomprehensible. Whereas, Douglas pointed out that if we look around us, we find practical illustrations of the Trinity everywhere. In fact, until the human race began to grasp the Trinitarian nature of reality, we couldn't get far in science or in understanding the environment until we saw matter as three phases, one substance and three phases. We couldn't get much further with it. For instance, when the gas phase was not connected with the liquid phase and the solid phase, there was an awful lot of nonsense that the gas phase was thought to be the spirit and that sort of thing. And you couldn't, if you didn't understand the connection in the liquid and solid, you couldn't smelt metals and so on. Also, space, until you could see space as three dimensions. But one space, three dimensions. See, 1 in 3, 3 in 1, it sounds like nonsense, but it's simple, practical observation, common sense. Time, past, present, future. Three aspects of time, three divisions of time. One time, only one time. So then I began to think, well, a tripod is the first thing that will stand, which gives stability. Two or one leg there is no use for stability. This is something inherent right in the universe. And as a scientist, and a lot of people like me who discarded this as, oh wow, there's sort of mystical talk and so on, we now see that on the contrary, this is simple to understand, the Trinity, in practical terms. God is incomprehensible. It's quite beyond our comprehension, which is why he expressed himself. He became incarnate as a man, and then gave us the Holy Ghost, which completed the Trinity, and the basic conception of balance in politics, in economics, even in what I was talking about, homeostasis, is fundamentally Trinitarian. In our Constitution, unless you've got three balanced powers, at least, you can have more, but you can always resolve them into three.
Well, then would you say that we of the English-speaking world are extremely privileged with our Constitution developments to a very great extent have reflected that Trinitarian?
Yes, this is a development of medieval Christianity, very clearly. Runnymede, which you have thrown some light on and greatly stressed in social credit, and Magna Carta, one of the bases of our freedom, arose out of that Trinity: king, barons, church. And later we had crown, lords, commons. And the trouble is that when this becomes unbalanced, you get balance starting from we have somewhat of a reflection of this in the USA and of course in all the former British dominions.
Well, you wouldn't expect in other countries where the religion is the Muslim religion or Hinduism, you wouldn't expect the social constitution structure then to provide the sort of balance that we have experienced in the past?
No, I wouldn't. Islam worships a monopolistic God, so does Judaism. And if you think the ultimate reality, the ultimate good of the universe is a monopoly, then you will naturally seek monopoly.
Mm-hmm. If we could just give you a little rest for a moment, we might ask your good lady over there to express her opinions. Now, Dobbs, of course, you have come up through the social credit movement, and you work very closely, of course, with your husband, and you produce, I noticed, this little journal here called Home. Perhaps you might care to say something about it. It seems to be your real baby, shall we say, at the moment.
Well, at the moment it's my baby, yes. It started off as the baby of an old lady, now 96, who used it for 30 years or so as a ladies' paper, a woman's paper. But it was a woman's paper that really did things. First of all, it was the first paper to point out the effects of fluoridation. We started the anti-fluoridation movement. I think that's right, isn't it, Geoffrey?
Yes.
Yes, it was.
Housewives Today.
Housewives Today it was then. Its directors also helped to stop rationing in Britain after the war. They were all paraded outside the Houses of Parliament each with a tray containing the rations